This is TWiT.
And now it's time for a battle.
Oh, yeah. Come on. It's the Macho Man Randy Savage. No, it's not. This is totally different. Sorry.
I was looking around for something that I could battle with, and the only thing I have near me is an Apple Pencil, and I just don't think that's good to battle anyone with. But the pencil is mightier than the sword, by golly.
There we go. It's a technology weapon. There you go. The epic battle of Fortnite. It rages on in the mobile app stores. That is Apple's App Store and Google's Play Store, where Fortnite. Yeah. Okay. Good. I'm happy we got there before the end of the second sentence. Fortnite is officially offered to players through these stores, of course. Although I'll talk about in a minute how that hasn't always been the case. But Epic has consistently been pretty vocal about pushing back on mobile app store agreements because they take a deep cut of any revenue that's generated through the apps that are presented there. All developers have had to kind of manage this, right? The Play Store and the App Store both take 30% of all revenue generated inside of the app. That's just the way it is. But Epic doesn't like that. And I'm sure a lot of developers don't like that. The difference here is that Epic is of a size and influence that it might actually be able to make changes around that. Or are they being greedy? These are like the opposite sides of the argument here. Fortnite, by the way, is arguably the most popular video game at the moment. 250 million monthly active users. It's just redonkulous how much activity and how much attention this gets on a regular basis. Epic just pushed out a new update to Fortnite, and it seems like it's probably a server-side update. I doubt this was an update that was okayed through the app stores, because if so, then that creates a whole other layer of confusion. But I'm guessing it's a server-side update that brings an alternative way to pay for V-Bucks and other in-app content by bypassing the App Store payment methods. So, for example, if you pay $7.99 for direct payment to Epic, you get 1,000 V-Bucks versus paying $9.99 through the App Store, and then of course they get their 30% cut. Yada yada yada. This would be a direct payment made through PayPal or credit card. Epic says, quote, if Apple and Google lower their fees on payments, Epic will pass along the savings to players. So the question here ends up being, how is Epic able to bypass those fees? These app stores have policies that actually allow them to boot, and they've done this many times, to boot an app or a game that's offering its own payment methods outside of the App Store methods, thereby bypassing the 30% cut. And if it is a server-side push, then that would mean that, Apple and Google never actually saw the change to approve it in the first place. I don't know if we necessarily have Apple and Google commenting on this yet. I guarantee you we will. But I think it's interesting timing right now when you take a look at the size of Epic, the influence of the amount of people playing Fortnite, and just kind of the importance of that game in general in gaming right now. And that concurrently lined up with Apple and Google kind of continually facing antitrust allegations and everything. This almost feels like Epic saying, all right, bring it on. Come on. What you going to do? Let's see what happens. And I just think it's an interesting battle royale that's about to happen.
What's doubly interesting to me is that this pairs with a decision that was just made, I think it was yesterday, on iOS. Well, no, it would have been yesterday then. Man, my days just run together. On Tuesday, on iOS Today, thank you, we covered a new service from SetApp. So SetApp, you can just go to setapp.com, SETAPP.com. But SetApp has been the subscription service available on the Mac for a long time, and they just launched an iOS version. And essentially what it has done is, if you pay for the subscription service, you download an app from the iOS App Store that has the basic features there, but not the full featured app. And with the subscription, you go on your Mac, you launch SetApp, you open up the app, a QR code pops up, you scan the QR code from within the app on your phone, and it unlocks the full version of the app. That bypasses Apple's payment grab, the 30% cut that Apple gets for processing payments for like subscription services and things like that. That leads me to believe that this is not going to be around for a while. And I just keep seeing all these instances of different companies kind of seeing what they can do, and they're passing app review. So what does Apple say about that? I mean, you got through app review. You allowed these apps to get through app review and be approved to be sold in the store. So what does that mean? Does that mean that you're going to have to go against the ruling that you allegedly had already made? And frankly, my biggest concern with all of this is there seem to be that on their own, all of these little blips on the radar don't add up to much. But when a company is already being heavily focused on for antitrust concerns, and you start to look at all these blips and how there can be arguments made about them all involving antitrust issues, that's where it's worrisome to me, because I think that as this continues to happen, Apple may face a reckoning. And honestly, there's a big part of me that feels like that is a reasonable thing to have happen, that it faces a reckoning. I mean, I think that some of the future of gaming is streaming, and the future of different apps and services kind of existing in their places and being able to, if it's this money thing in this case, where you get a bunch of different bucks and you get to spend them on stuff, hampering the ability for people to enjoy the games that they play on their devices, I don't think is a good look. And so it's all, I look at it with fascination as a person who doesn't play any of these games and doesn't know much about how they all work, and more from a place of fascination of going, of fascination and consternation, because I want Apple to not make the wrong decision in these things.
Yeah, it really does seem like a situation where it sends very mixed signals. Certain developers are like, hey, wait a minute, you're not allowing us to do that. Other developers, like Epic, for example, seemingly were able to push this through. Haven't heard a comment from either Apple or Google about it already. So then it's like, okay, well, wait a minute. Did they pull a fast one, or did these companies grant them the ability to do this, whereas other developers are not allowed to do it? And that's shady in and of itself. It's like putting, and then when you talk about the antitrust allegations, the blips that add up to so much, it's almost like putting another log onto the fire, and the fire just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And the fire's already pretty darn big right now. So these things just add more fuel to it. I mentioned earlier, not being in the app stores, or at least in the Play Store. Fortnite only appeared in the Play Store very recently. When it launched back in 2018 on Android, Epic specifically held it from the Google Play Store and released it only on their site as a direct download, an installable APK, which is an install file for Android. So you had to really kind of go out of your way to install it on Android. Android, of course, allows you to do that, but in order to do that, you have to kind of open up the security model on your Android device a little bit, and it's probably not the best choice for everyone to do that. So there are some inherent risks with it. Epic felt that the risks that were associated with that were worth the fact that in this way they still controlled their destiny, at least as far as Android devices were concerned. Ultimately, this April they acquiesced, and they more or less put out a statement and said, look, the reason that we're back is because Google makes it impossible for developers like us to do what we did, right? Like, yes, we can offer it, and yes, you can download it, but every step of the way the OS is telling you, hey, this file is probably unsafe, and doing all of these things that again kind of tie back into this antitrust kind of cloud that's swirling over Google to say, hey, it's really using everything in its ability, they would say, to protect the users, but from the developer's perspective, it really seems like they're using their power to say, hey, you can't do anything else. You can't do anything safely unless you're doing it through us, and therefore we get the 30% cut. So it's
live update here. Live update. Mark Gurman has tweeted, Epic's Fortnite has been removed from the App Store after they implemented direct payments circumventing Apple's 30% cut.
Okay.
Oh,
right,
my.
Dun.
I don't like it.
So then does this trigger a kind of like a domino effect, at least on this portion of the antitrust discussion, because that's an interesting avenue to explore. I'm sure Google is probably right behind. They're probably both unified in this. If it truly is, going against their rules behind the scenes, then I would almost bet that Google's going to do the same thing. So, once again, an interesting story to follow, and the wider arc will be to see how this plays into this bigger story of antitrust, and does it make more of a case for some of the charges there.